Hi girls, it's Miss Cartwright here. This is Vocab Unit 11 for Level D. Let's go ahead and take notes in the vocabulary section of our writing notebook. You can either write down the words and definitions or things that I say that will help you to remember the words, or you can just watch the video and then go ahead and write me a short story using our vocabulary words when we're done. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first word we have this week is brevity. Brevity is a noun and it means shortness. Shakespeare once famously wrote, "Brevity is the soul of wit." So humor comes from things that are short and to the point. Like if you have to explain a joke, it's not funny. So being brief, having brevity is really funny. This character here in our little cartoon is really wishing for brevity. Why can't he just say he did it because, asking for the other speaker to really tighten up his point. Our next word is comport. It's a verb. It means to conduct or bear oneself, to behave, or it can also mean to be in agreement. Usually we talk about comporting ourselves with grace and dignity. We want to behave ourselves in a positive way. We usually don't use the word comport to convey a negative connotation about behavior. The next word we have is concise. It's an adjective. It means expressing much in a few words. And really that's a word we should think about a lot because of the way that we deal with media today. If we tweet, we have to be really concise. We only have 140 characters to tweet with. If you text, it's the same kind of thing. You have to be really concise to get your point across. So you can see that this word concise is very closely related to brevity, but concise is an adjective, so it describes something that is said shortly, whereas brevity is a noun. It is that word shortness itself. Okay, demure is our next word. It's an adjective. It means behaving in a sober or serious manner, modest. Sober here doesn't mean the opposite of being intoxicated. It just means being really serious. Like you would be demure if you were a young girl who was being courted. For example, Juliet was probably very demure at the beginning of the play Romeo and Juliet, but she lost some of that modesty during the course of her play. Our next word is depreciation. It's a noun, and it means a lessening in value, a belittling. And really famously, people talk about cars depreciating or losing value the moment they drive off the lot. So here's an example of a new car compared to an old car, and the first car is wondering how little he'll be worth when he gets older. He's worried about having that depreciation take place. Deteriorate is a verb. It means to lower in quality or value, to wear or weigh. So almost everything deteriorates as it grows older. Houses deteriorate if they're not maintained. We deteriorate in the process of aging. Some things, though, do gain value as they age, so that would be the opposite of deteriorating. Divulge is our next verb. It means to tell, to reveal, to make public. Usually we talk about divulging a secret, so sharing something that was previously unknown to other people. Our next word is an adjective. It's enlightened. Enlightened means free from ignorance and false ideas or possessing a sound understanding. You might remember from your history classes the Enlightenment era. That's when knowledge and science and research came to really be privileged by society. So you can think about that idea of enlightenment. Also, we oftentimes relate knowledge or learning to light. So you can make that association with this word as well. Our next word is another verb, forestall, to prevent by acting first. So you can remember this one because it's a lot like stalling just by itself, the verb stall. Stall is when you try to slow something down to keep it from coming. Forestall is a little bit more specific because it means to prevent by acting first. So in this case, this child's family is forestalling disease by having him be inoculated, by having him receive a vaccine. So that's an example of forestalling. Our next word is garble, which is a verb, and it means to distort in such a way as to make unintelligible. A lot of the times you'll hear about people having speech that was garbled, or maybe you might be accused of having an essay that was garbled. You were unable to understand it. Proponent is the opposite of the word opponent. It's a noun, and it's someone who wants to put forward a proposal, one who supports a cause or belief. So this little girl is a proponent of education. She is an opponent of war. She wants education to happen. She does not want war. So you can remember that by remembering pro means for. Okay. Our next word is quaver. It's a verb. It means to shake, tremble, or to trill. I remember this one because quaver sounds a lot like quiver, and quiver also means to shake. So you can easily remember that one. Our next word is also a verb. It's recoil, and it means to spring back, to shrink, or the act of springing back. So this clown is springing forward. If he were going back into the box, that would actually be recoiling. A lot of times you hear about guns having a recoil effect. So when somebody shoots a gun, it pushes the person who shot the gun backwards because of the force of the shot of the gun. That's called a recoil. Recoop is to make up for or to regain. So here we've got our two friends from Monsters, Inc. trying to recoup the loss of their initial home. They're trying to go back to where they came from. So they're trying to get back there. So you also have probably heard the word recuperate. This is just the short verb version. Reek is a noun. It's an unpleasant smell. It means to give off unpleasant smells or to give a strong impression. So sometimes after a delicious meal, you might reek of garlic, or after gym class, your shoes could reek. Probably not yours, but maybe the girl whose locker's next to yours. Okay, our next word is relentless. It's an adjective. It means unyielding, harsh, or without pity. So here's a political cartoon that is really portraying Hillary Clinton or the U.S. Army as being relentless in its plan for Syria. You can see that boot here stepping on the Syrian refugee. Okay, rivulet is a noun and it means a small stream. So I like to remember this one because it starts with riv, just like river, but then it ends with that little diminutive ending. Just a rivulet, not a whole big river, so you can tell it's small. Our next word is squander. It's a verb. It means to spend foolishly or to waste. So here's a guy who's definitely squandering his money by throwing it up in the air. We'll have to see if we see any examples of squandering money in our play A Raisin in the Sun as we read that. Staccato is an adjective, and it means detached or disconnected in sound or style. If you're a musician, you might remember this word staccato because it has to do with a particular way of playing a note. And it creates that really disconnected, sharp sound. Sometimes when women walk down pavement or hard surfaces in high heels, the strike of the heel makes a really staccato noise. It's a sharp, disconnected sound. Okay. Statute is our last word this week, and it's a noun, and it means a law. You might have heard the expression statute of limitations. That's a law for how long somebody can be charged with a crime after the crime has occurred. So again, statute is a law. All right, you guys, that is our vocab video for Unit 11. I look forward to seeing either your notes or your vocab story next class. Thanks, girls.